Love English muffins, but not the hassle? This loaf gives you the same flavor made in a fraction of the time with no fuss. Hi bowl bakers, I'm Gemma Stafford, a professional chef for over 20 years, and I'm going to show you how to make the most incredible English muffin bread you've ever made. We'll mix a quick batter, let it rise once, and bake it into a golden brown loaf full of nooks and crannies. So let's get baking. So I'm about to show you the fastest and simplest yeasted dough you have ever seen. From start to finish, it's going to be out of the oven in 90 minutes. So we're going to start by mixing our dough. We're mixing it by hand. We do not need a machine or anything fancy. So I strongly recommend using bread flour and not all-purpose flour because you want something with a little bit more gluten. English muffin bread is all about those nooks and the crannies and the bubbles. And with bread flour, it'll have the strength to capture the gases to hold in those bubbles. Then into this, we're going to put a little bit of salt, always in our bread making. Here I have some instant yeast. I love to use instant yeast because it goes straight into the flour and you don't have to sponge it like you do active dried yeast. Give those a mix. So here's an ingredient that is unique to English muffins, baking soda. And you're probably thinking, why do I need baking soda if I already have yeast in there? Baking soda is what helps contribute to those bubbles. And also the unique flavor that English muffins have. So we add in a little bit of that to help with the rise. And you're going to see that later, the bubbles that it helps form. And those are our dry ingredients. Now for our wet, I have some warm milk and some runny honey. The honey helps to feed the yeast. Lots of your favorite breads have a little bit of sugar in some form to help the yeast thrive. You want that milk lukewarm, or what I always say, blood temperature. So when you put your finger in there, you can't feel the milk around it, which means it's a similar temperature to your blood. And I just like to do that by popping it in the microwave. Whisk in the honey and then add your wet into your dry. The warmth in that milk will also help to activate your yeast. Yeast needs a few things to live, which is warmth from that milk. It needs food from the sugar. It needs air. And it needs love and care. And that's what we're going to do with this dough. Like I said, no kneading involved. Just mix it all up by hand. All we're doing is mixing to combine. We don't need to work that dough. And there you go. That's how easy it is to mix that dough. Now here is the special kind of thing we're going to do that's unique to this bread for our tin. This is how we're going to prepare it. Here I have a loaf pan here. I have some olive oil. And I am going to generously grease the pan with olive oil. My preference will be olive oil for flavor and just for quality. However, if you don't have any olive oil, you can use a vegetable oil. Just give that pan a good greasing. So here I have some fine cornmeal. And what I love about English muffins is a little kind of bit of cornmeal on the outside that gives it nice texture. And I'm going to sprinkle this into the pan. Kind of helps even if you do it in your hand. Along the bottom, down the sides. This is going to coat our loaf and make it very reminiscent of an English muffin. Lovely, and it's also going to help the bread pop right out. That's our pan. In with our dough. It's a thick dough, so use your spatula to spread it out. Try and get it as even as possible. This is something I found that works really well with our same olive oil. We're going to brush the top. Smooth it out at the same time that you're doing that. This helps to kind of give our bread a nice sheen. And it also helps to adhere the last sprinkling of fine cornmeal on the top. I mean, it doesn't get much simpler than this when it comes to bread baking. Now, normally our yeasted dough will have proofed already and then we put it into the pan, but not this one. This is what makes it so magical. We are going to leave it in the pan to proof now. It just proofed once. We are going to let it rise all the way to the top of the pan. And when it starts to do that and there's bubbles on the top, that means it's time to go into the oven. So that will take around 45 minutes or so, really not long at room temperature. So let me show you what your bread should look like when it's proofed. So carefully pull back the cling wrap. And as you can see, it has risen all the way to the top. And because we greased the top of the loaf of bread, it won't have stuck to our cling wrap. You see all those bubbles on top? This is what makes it different to a regular loaf of white bread. This is what makes it more akin to an English muffin. It's going to be so lovely and bubbly on the inside. For this bread in particular, when you're proofing, only put cling wrap on top and not a heavy towel, because we want to make sure that we don't knock any air out of it. Once it gets to the rim, just like this one, it's time to get it into the oven. If it overproofs, it can fall down a little bit and we don't want that. So this is ready to go. So follow me. Bake your bread in a nice hot oven, 400 degrees Fahrenheit, 200 degrees Celsius for roughly around 25 minutes or until it's lovely and golden brown. You'll know when this bread comes out of the oven, it's not just a regular loaf of bread. It's something really special. Not only does it look amazing, but it smells great too. It rises beautifully and it's a lovely golden brown all over. Making bread at home can be really special, but can also be a lot of work. But this loaf takes all the work out of it. The beauty of this loaf is really on the inside, because when you slice into it, you see all those lovely nooks and crannies. This is what happens when that baking soda and the yeast mixes together and we let it sit out at room temperature and proof until it's really lovely and bubbly. If you love a classic English muffin, then you are going to adore this bread. I really hope you give this English muffin bread a try. Thank you so much for watching. If you want more baking videos, then stick around. I have hundreds for you to check out. I'll see you back here again really soon.